So I think sort of like a poacher come gamekeeper or a photographer come curator can actually bring something to the table. And that's in effect, obviously, what I'm trying to put across in this festival. I don't, is that bragging? I'm not sure, but you understand my point. It's from the ground up, rather than from the table down.
Well, I think that's one of the things that's quite marked in this biennial, which is your focus on the practitioner and how the practitioner approaches what they do and the questions that they bring to bear in relationship to their work and how they are articulating their vision. I think it's very interesting what you're saying about the work by Alec, Rinko and Stephen. You know, 3 different artists, and they've all come up with doing, essentially had the same brief, but come up with very different responses.
Absolutely.
So it's very interesting for us in the context of biennial to have this real focus on practice and practitioners, and particularly contemporary practice. Sticking with that theme then of the new and directional, how do you see your selection then of these extraordinary artists that you've brought together and have shared in this platform? How do you see how they might influence future photographers, how your selection and how their practice might influence future photographers and the direction of photographic?
Well, because I believe in these people, obviously, that's partly why they're here. I hope and expect that they will continue to contribute, and this, if you like, is a little kick up that greasy pole that all photographers have to climb in order to get their work recognised. And having this platform and having a very serious audience and having serious attention is going to be helpful for them. And they come, they meet people, the whole weekend. This weekend is as much to do with who you meet at the party, in the pub, in the restaurant, as well as actually having the show. This is an integral part. And in the years of the internet, we still need that sort of personal contact that people get together, talk, meet, find the connections with each other. This is why this opening weekend is so important. It's a celebration, I hope, of the shows that we present, but also a chance for people to meet each other. And I hope and expect also that because we have seriously interesting people, that their recognition, as I say, will help them. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating that both, for example, Rinko and Stephen, when I did 2004, they were emerging then, okay? And because I enjoyed working with them so much, and because they have gone on and shown what wonderful, serious photographers they are, I really like the idea of, if you like, promoting them to the sort of mid-generation established photographers and giving them the opportunity to create this new work. So I'm really proud of that connection of the 2004 ARL programme and what we have here.
Right, okay, so I was going to ask you about ARL, actually, and just to get a sense from you about your approach to ARL and in what ways did it influence or does it differ in your approach?
Well, to be absolutely honest, it's exactly the same. It's more of the same. And as indeed with ARL, we had a substantial amount of vernacular photography. As indeed with ARL, we commissioned photographers. We commissioned Hans van der Meer to do local football. And of course, we had new photographers. But one of the things we did in ARL, which we haven't done here because it's too difficult, is to actually represent some of the British photographers that I felt have been overlooked. For example, Chris Kirlitt, Tony Ray Jones. They became part of the festival as well in ARL, and that's another dimension, but because of the limitations of the space and time here, we didn't go down that road. So the great thing is to actually have this chance to show the new work. Yeah. But in fact, I have to confess, in terms of my attitude and approach, they are remarkably similar. Just that everyone is different, except for the honourable exception of Rinko and Stephen being promoted into the sort of established photographer range. Perhaps I can get a badge.
Okay, and so what extent then, looking at the biennial, do you feel that you've achieved you fully realised your curatorial vision?
Well, I know that basically the Biennale is a partner-led organisation, but one of the things I was determined to do, which means, of course, that the partners ultimately arrange and pay for those exhibitions. But I realised immediately that I wanted to do more than that, and that, of course, has pushed us in terms of budget, in terms of time and space, because we didn't have the old co-op, as you well know, Helen, until about 2.5 months ago secured. So it was a real rollercoaster ride, and we were working very closely with the fantastic Fringe team, because we wanted to share this place, and we had 3 or 4 places we were considering. And so it was a bit of a panic to get that. But I know in a sense it's not part of our remit, but how could we not do it? because to me it's so important to show and give the platform to these new
No, I
photographers.
completely agree with you, but I think if anything, this is the point that perhaps John was hinting at, which is that we've done things very differently this time because our focus is in Brighton and Hove, and we normally work with partners outside of Brighton and Hove. Of course, that would create a very different experience for the audience.
Yeah.
And so it is really important for us to experiment what does it mean to create a biennial within the context of the city after which it's named, but also it flags up an issue around infrastructure, which is exactly what you've pointed out around the co-op, which is, there are literally, 3 publicly funded venues and 1 venue that's supported within the context of higher education here at the university. So essentially 4 venues within Brighton and Hove that are publicly funded, that have a public remit. And therefore, that very ambitious 5th exhibition, which we have got at the co-op, created a real challenge.
And thank God we did it. We overcome that challenge. We presented it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it was a very important strand to the biennial, which is to present new and recently produced work. So it was essential.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. So you feel comfortable then in terms of achieving what's been achieved?
I can't use the word comfortable.
Okay.
It doesn't suit me. I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited. I mean, I believe, if I don't believe in these people, no one will, right?
Yeah.
Because I've selected them,
Yeah.
I've contacted them, I've produced the dialogue whereby the exhibition, and of course we're printing all the exhibition. I'm sure you're going to come on to this.
Yes.
And of course Connor, who run the whole printing studio upstairs, whereby with the help of HP, we produced the whole festival. He was in constant dialogue with the photographers. One of the good things about emerging photographers, they're not too fussy, okay? Established photographers, okay, which you normally find in photography festivals, can be difficult. They'll say to you, no, you have to have my lab do this print. No, I want them framed like this, that and the other, okay? And they have all these demands, quite fair and reasonable, I don't blame them, but they're very expensive. And we have a limited budget, so we always made it a condition of the invitation is that you will send us the files, you will send us a test print, we will discuss with you the size, the paper, the media that it's going to be printed on, but that is absolutely core to the invitation that you accept. Okay, because we can't be doing with these awkward, difficult photographers who think they know better than you and make these financial demands because we couldn't entertain it. So the great thing about emerging photographers, they're just happy to have the show, right? So we exploited that. And of course, that fits in entirely with the philosophy that I'm trying to bring across. So it worked out very well.
Yes, and I sort of imagine they trust you and obviously trust Connor because he's worked.
Yeah, no, well, I wouldn't. I mean, because Connor used to run my studio, and we know that he left and he was travelling the world and he was coming back to the UK, the timing was wonderful. And when I suggested to you, you understood that he would be also the perfect person, because I know he's a brilliant technician. And I think, it's been fantastic to see the photographers arrive yesterday, see their prints. They hadn't seen the prints that we produced, and 100% they've said they like them. So that's really very nice that they understood that we've done absolutely the best work possible within the files that they presented.
And do you see this as a model then that could be developed?
Totally. I mean, festivals are all up against it because arts funding is difficult. I think this model of not only no frames but also files being sent will basically be the thing that emerges in the next 10, 20 years. Because festivals no longer have the budget to frame everything beautifully. Even the big ones like Arles and Photo Spania, I'm sure they're up against it too. So the smaller festivals of which we're a part, and like 143 festivals in France, it's amazing really. I mean, there's so many festivals now. I think this whole model of producing files, sending this, is how it's going to happen in the future. So I hope that we're, in fact, evolving a prototype which other people will use. I hope they do, because I think it's a very effective way of working.
But would that prototype lend itself, as you say, to mid-career as more established?
Well, it's a part, but I mean, I'm quite happy now to do this whole thing of sending files and the test print. It's something that I get asked a lot, and I understand that you ultimately just have to trust these people that they have got a good technician. I mean, I don't know whether they'll have someone as good as Connor, but so it's more difficult, I guess, for older, more established photographers. But I'm into the spirit of it. I think it's fundamentally good.
In terms of the results then, as these frame-free images have been pinned directly onto the wall, how do you feel about the results now that you've seen?
I think it works fantastically well, because what the frame-free thing tells you is that you have here in front of you something that's exciting, very vibrant, very energetic, and take it or leave it. And then at the end of the show, we don't have the, okay, if photographers want the prints back, we'll come to an arrangement where we send them back. If they don't, we'll just tear them up, put them in the bin. And I think the spirit of that is absolutely right, because it really fits in with the notion of the process of discovery, the process of making this an exciting event, opening it up and seeing, allowing people a chance to take what they want from it.
Yeah, and then the idea of new. Sticking with the curatorial resolution, in terms of how the works have been presented in the exhibitions, could you talk a little bit about the House of Vernacular, because that is an interesting installation.
No, I mean, this is sensational, and it's down to Matthew Miller, who's one of the co-directors at Fabrica. So when I was initially talking to him about possibly using Fabrica as a venue for some vernacular photography, we slowly evolved this sort of pattern whereby he would make this installation. And although I had vernacular photography in Arles, it was basically presented in a much more conservative way. So what he's done with the 7 bodies of work that I selected, he's presented a different environment for each of them. So you go into the beginning, the front of the Fabrica, you go into the building, there's this shop window that says the House of Vernacular. It's like one of those old streets you see when they recreate Dickensian streets in museums. And in you go, and you're into the parlour, the introduction, then you go to this Brazilian living room. And here we have these remarkable photo paintings that are pinned on the wall. Now, what's interesting is these actual photo paintings, when you see them in the living room, they're always framed. But what we did to get round to stick to our frame-free idea is we photographed frames, printed the photographs in the frame, and stuck the piece of paper with the photo of the frame and the photo up on the wall. So it's actually photographs of frames that we stuck up there. And then you go round, I'm going to not tell everybody, but exactly what's there, because it's such an amazing, and he's done a brilliant job. I was just there this morning, the aeroplane is now taking off, and the Darchinga pictures coming out of the water. I've never seen anything like it. And although ultimately I was the seed of this, it was his brilliance that actually made it happen. And it has to be one of the highlights. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
How could anyone not love this?
Yeah. Because it's become kind of almost like a sculptural event within...
It's an installation,
yeah.
With photographs as being integral to the core of that installation.
And I remember Matthew, the early discussions, or quite in-depth discussions, Matthew was very much conceiving of this as kind of an opportunity to get inside the mind of Martin Parr, as a collector. I think that was part of the thinking, I think.
He didn't tell me that.